The time is 8:45 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Lakshman Fonseca and read by Tilani Pires. The Parliament says the Speaker has certified the 2019 coronavirus disease bill. Steps to vaccinate ex-servicemen and war heroes shortly. Japan and UNICEF commend Sri Lanka's COVID vaccine rollout. The State Pharmaceutical Corporation is successfully proceeding with the drug production locally. ICTA launches the COVID-19 Smart Vaccine Certificates portal. Sports news: 6 players to participate at the Asian Table Tennis Championships. Nearly $10 billion in reserves in the Afghanistan Central Bank frozen. The Parliament Communications Unit says Speaker Mahinda Yapa has certified the 2019 coronavirus disease bill. Secretary-General of Parliament Dhammika Dasanayake said that the Speaker signed the agreement on 23rd of August. The purpose of the bill is to provide for alternative courts in cases where persons are unable to perform certain acts prescribed by law within the time limit due to COVID-19 status. The Act will also provide for the use of telecommunications technology to facilitate the control of the COVID-19 situation and to make temporary provisions for related matters. It will also provide provision for relief to the parties which have failed to fulfill their contractual obligations due to the COVID-19 situation. Steps have been taken to vaccinate ex-servicemen and war heroes shortly. The Defence Ministry says war widows and dependents are also expected to be vaccinated with the Sinopharm vaccines, which will arrive in Sri Lanka on Saturday. The ministry said 300,000 doses of Sinopharm vaccines donated by the People's Liberation Army will be utilised in this regard. They said the consignment of Sinopharm vaccines were received following a request made by the Defence Secretary, General Kamal Gunaratne, to the Chinese Defence Minister, General Wei Fenghe. The Sri Lankan Defence Secretary will officially receive the consignment of vaccines from the Chinese embassy officials in Sri Lanka at the Bandaranaike International Airport on its arrival on Saturday. Japan and UNICEF have commended Sri Lanka's speedy and successful rollout of vaccines against COVID-19. The Ministry of Health received the second batch of cold chain equipment procured by UNICEF with funding from the government of Japan to strengthen Sri Lanka's delivery of immunization services, including against COVID-19. The items were handed over to the Minister of Health, Kehelia Rambukwala, by Ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka, Akira Sugiyama, and representative of UNICEF Sri Lanka, Christian Skog. Speaking at the handover ceremony, Minister Rambukwala said, immunization is a key pillar of the healthcare system in Sri Lanka to protect the people from vaccine-preventable diseases, and the equipment from the government of Japan are crucial input to strengthen the delivery of vaccinations. Domestic drug production is now proceeding successfully. Under the initiative, the government has stepped on to manufacture imported drugs locally by the State Pharmaceutical Corporation. The corporation said they have already manufactured 8 drug varieties which were imported from overseas in the recent past. The government is also urging pharmaceuticals to seek investments for the establishment of production factories, assuring them that it will provide systemic support to encourage domestic drug production. The government can also manufacture and obtain purchase certificates and facilitate the exportation of medicines to other countries in the region. It is also reported that construction work of pharmaceutical manufacturing plant at Koggal Export Zone has now been completed. Operations of the plant will commence after 4 months. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The Information and Communication Technology Agency, ICTA, launches the COVID-19 Smart Vaccine Certificate portal today. The ICTA has introduced this initiative in collaboration with the Health Ministry and the World Health Organization, WHO. ICTA Chairman Oshada Senanayake says it will be mainly helpful for those who are planning to travel overseas. He said the initiative will avoid the inconvenience of physically visiting the nearest MOH office to collect hard copies of the vaccine certificate. The ICTA chairman added they will continue to enable technology-driven solutions and empower citizen services with technology. Meanwhile, Secretary to the Technology Ministry, Jayanta De Silva, thanked the Health Ministry and the WHO for working behind the scenes to bring the Smart Vaccine Certificate to the public and enabling a hassle-free mechanism to obtain the vaccine certificate. A foreign study which compared the efficacy of 4 different COVID-19 vaccines has revealed that the percentage of deaths among the unvaccinated people above the age of 50 years is 8.1 times higher than that of the Sinopharm vaccine recipients. Professor Neelika Malavige of the Department of Immunology and Molecular Medicine at the Sri Jawadanapura University stated this, tweeting the findings of the relevant study conducted with regard to the morbidity and the mortality from COVID-19 post-vaccination breakthrough infections in association with vaccines and the emergence of variants in Bahrain. According to the study, no deaths were reported among the Pfizer-BioNTech, Oxford AstraZeneca and Sputnik V vaccine recipients aged over 50 years. The research has further discovered that the percentage of deaths among all COVID-19 cases in unvaccinated people below the age of 50 was 3.8 times higher compared to the Sinopharm vaccine recipients. The authors of the study have concluded that the 4 vaccines were effective in achieving all 4 outcomes, which are infections, hospitalizations, ICU admissions, and deaths in the vaccinated compared to the unvaccinated individuals prior to and during the period when the Delta variant became dominant in the country. Legal action is to be taken for mobile traders if they are not taken both vaccine doses. Colombo District Secretary Pradeep Yasaratna said at a media briefing to raise awareness about the public welfare in the Colombo district during the quarantine curfew. All economic centres in Colombo are open to provide essential food items to the people during the quarantine period without any hindrance, and a total of 12,294 mobile vendors and 1,489 wholesale outlets have been registered in the Colombo district. He added that more than 90% of the population in the Colombo district has been given at least 1 dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Steps have already been taken to vaccinate persons over the age of 60 who have not yet been vaccinated. That ends local news for now.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Steps are being taken to vaccinate ex-servicemen and war heroes shortly. The Defence Ministry says war widows' dependents are also expected to be vaccinated with the Sinopharm vaccines, which will arrive in Sri Lanka on Saturday. The ministry said 300,000 doses of Sinopharm vaccines donated by the People's Liberation Army will be utilised in this regard. They said the consignment of Sinopharm vaccines will arrive in Sri Lanka on Saturday. It was donated following a request made by the Defence Secretary General Kamal Gunaratne to the Chinese Defence Minister General Wei Fenghe, ministry sources said. That was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on with Watchlight tonight, the Minister of Mass Media says that public has been provided with the opportunity to get information relevant to the state language policy. The ministry said that the public can get information from State Languages Commission by calling over the telephone numbers 071 952 1436 and 076 1477 833. That came to you in Watchlight. Moving on with world news and the headlines first. UK military officials are accused after a car was pictured being airlifted out of Afghanistan. Thousands of people are still scrambling to flee Afghanistan after the Taliban seized back control of the country. Nearly $10 billion in reserves in the Afghanistan Central Bank frozen by the US. UK military officials have been accused of wasting space on evacuation planes after a car was pictured being airlifted out of Afghanistan. Broadcast footage shows a Toyota car on board a British aircraft surrounded by troops and evacuees as they prepare to take off from the Kabul airport. The images were broadcast amid fears the US will not extend its 31st August deadline for ending the evacuation in Kabul, increasing the risk that some people are left behind. Ben Wallace, the Defence Secretary, earlier insisted he would prioritise the evacuation of people over pets and animals following claims that the extraction of animal charity was blocked. Thousands of people are still scrambling to flee Afghanistan after the Taliban seized back control of the country. The surge in numbers trying to leave comes on top of the 2.2 million Afghan refugees already in neighboring countries and in 3.5 million people forced to flee their homes within Afghanistan's borders. On Wednesday, the US said it had facilitated the evacuation of more than 80,000 people from the Kabul airport, currently the only operational one in the country since 14th August. The UK Minister of Defence says it has flown out over 10,000 of those people and that more than 6,000 of them were Afghan nationals. The German government says 4,500 people have left the country on its flights out of Kabul. Around 3,700 of them were Afghans, including local journalists and human rights activists, and about half of that number were women and girls. Taliban are now facing problems of accessing the nearly $10 billion US dollars in reserves in the country's central bank. The Financial Times reported Taliban members had attempted to inspect Afghanistan's billions of dollars in foreign reserves at the country's central bank. Afghanistan Bank said that they could not access it because it was being stored by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York in Manhattan. Regardless, most of the central bank's roughly $9.5 billion US dollars in assets were frozen by the US last week after the Taliban took control of Afghanistan. And now to end this world news segment, the headlines once again. UK military officials are accused after a car was pictured being airlifted out of Afghanistan. Thousands of people are still scrambling to flee Afghanistan after the Taliban seized back control of the country. Nearly $10 billion US dollars in reserves in the Afghanistan Central Bank frozen by the US. That ends World News.
Development News is brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
And on development news, the Agriculture Ministry will produce 50,000 metric tons of organic fertilizer using the Epavela phosphate for the first time. According to geologists, the deposit is one of the best phosphate deposits in the world. This program has been implemented jointly by the Lanka Phosphate Company, the Scientech, with the instructions and guidelines from the Colombo University. The ministry said this would be the first step of a national plan to manufacture required organic fertilizer locally. That came to you in Development News.
Development News was brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
Coming up, sports news. 6 players will participate at the Asian Table Tennis Championships representing Sri Lanka. The matches will take place in Doha, Qatar from September 28th to October 5th. Table Tennis Association, TTASL, of Sri Lanka says they will send 3 men and 3 women paddlers with 1 official. The association says the names of these paddlers will be sent to the Sports Ministry to obtain approval in due course. The ministry will also meet the expenses of the tour party, but if any other player wishes to take part, they will have to meet the expenses out of their own funds, according to the TTASL. According to the TTASL, veteran woman paddler Ishara Madurangi will be the captain of the women's team. The men's team will be led by Sri Lanka's leading player, Senura Silva. That was Sports News.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
Freshly grated coconut is now available in the Sri Lankan market. It is the first product of Coco Nut, a small-scale Sri Lankan startup business. Coco Nuts. Freshly grated coconut comes in a handy 200 grams package. Coco Nut Managing Director Tarindu Lianage says they are now delivering fresh grated coconut packages to consumers' doorsteps. Within 10 minutes of being grated, coconut packs them in environmentally friendly packaging. In terms of packaging, grated coconut is packed in a sealed craft paper bag pouch, which is again procured from housewives who make a living from handicrafts. The company also said the product aims at delivering consumers the feeling of fresh coconut, which they cannot get from other coconut products, and coconut does not add a single preservative or food additive. Cocoa Nuts freshly grated coconut is ideal for consumers who prefer home-cooked meals but have very limited time to engage in cooking activities with other work to focus on. Consumers can now order Cocoa Nuts products by contacting them via WhatsApp on +94 773 502 547. That WhatsApp number once again, +94 773 502 547. That was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news. Courtesy of
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICTA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
The Australian Deputy High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Amanda Jewell, launched 2 partnerships to support COVID-19 economic recovery in Sri Lanka. It was launched under the Australian government's Business Partnerships Platform BPP. Deputy High Commissioner Jewell said Sri Lanka's economy has been one of the hardest hit from the COVID-19 pandemic in the South Asian region. She said small businesses, informal workers and women have been disproportionately impacted by the economic downturn in Sri Lanka. Through this business partnership platform, the Australian government is supporting business-led economic growth and COVID-19 recovery in Sri Lanka, she said. The partnership will drive participation for people from low-income communities in the logistics industry and open up access for women-led businesses and SMEs with the convenience of the platform. That ends economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICTA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
The Natural Hazards Early Warning Centre today issued an advisory for heavy rain. According to the advisory, heavy showers above 100 millimeters can be expected at some places in the western, Sabaragamu and central provinces and in Galle and Mathura districts during the next 24 hours. Sri Lanka is experiencing active monsoon condition as heavy rains accompanied by thunderstorms continue to lash various parts of the country. The Met Department forecasts heavy rain to continue in parts of the country over a 24-hour period from 6 a.m. today. And the Met Department also says the prevailing showery condition over the southwestern part of the island is expected to continue during the next few days. Showers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamu, central and northwestern provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts. Heavy showers above 100 millimeters can be expected at some places in the western, Sabaragamu and central provinces and in Galle and Mathura districts. Several spells of showers will occur in the Hambantota district. Showers or thunder showers may occur at a few places in the Uva province and in Ampara and Batticaloa districts. That was the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And now to end this news broadcast, the main points once again. The Parliament says the Speaker has certified the 2019 coronavirus disease bill. Steps to vaccinate ex-servicemen and war heroes shortly. Japan and UNICEF commends Sri Lanka's COVID vaccine rollout. The State Pharmaceutical Corporation is successfully proceeding with the drug production locally. ICTA launches the COVID-19 Smart Vaccine Certificate portal. Sports news, 6 players to participate at the Asian Table Tennis Championships. And on foreign news, nearly $10 billion in reserves in the Afghanistan Central Bank frozen. That ends this news broadcast.